Hi, I'm Kat Treadgold. I'm not used to doing stuff like this, which is basically record myself without anyone around. My husband would not be one to volunteer because basically every picture he takes of me, I don't have a head in. So anyway, here I am, and I'm going to talk to you about romance novels today, of which I'm not an expert, but I do have in my mind a particular idea of the kind of books I write. I'm not always consistent. The one thing they all have in common is that they're comfort reads. I recently got some iffy reviews that basically said, "Is there such a thing as a cozy romance?" And I guess there is. I guess that's what I write. They do have a lot of humor for those who recognize it. I realize humor is in the eye of the beholder. They are, the people are always beautiful. And I suppose that's a little bit old-fashioned since nowadays readers like to see themselves in the characters. And, I'm not young like my characters. I don't think anyone ever would have called me beautiful except if they wanted to flatter me. But, in real life, beauty is also in your soul. So unfortunately, that soul has to show on the outside in a romance novel. My characters are all kind people. Some men are more alphas than others. I'd say Liam is the alpha guy who always has to fight that need to control. And some of the characters in my new series, which is the Beyond the Peninsula series, are also alphas. And they are a bit full of themselves, I suppose. It's interesting. Okay, so the women are beautiful and young, but I like to believe also that they're perceived that way because they're really nice people in real life. So there's only so many ways you can describe beautiful, which is a challenge for every romance writer, as is describing sex, which is another thing I'll get into in a minute. Anyway, they all take place in beautiful settings, and I try to have interesting things happen, but nothing in the books is really enough to, I hope I'm not actually making people anxious, because the whole point of these books is escape, right? So I don't want you to be anxious. It's sort of like when I saw the first Downton Abbey movie with one of my friends, and we came out and I said, nothing really happened in that movie that wasn't resolved in 20 minutes. And she said, I know, I love that. So I guess I love it too, which is why I write books that way. Things get resolved, but then something else comes up. And I like to believe I don't rely on coincidence and that it's still interesting. Although I guess, I include a lot of my characters' thoughts, and to some people, those are the boring parts. I've really said just about everything I'm going to say about this for now, except I wanted to talk about sex, because I'm not sure any author just loves writing about sex. I think it's way harder to do than people imply, just because sex is inherently funny. And I think I do include some of that. But for the most part, you can't make it that way when you're writing about it. You're trying to get people to feel, I'm right there with them in bed, And more people talk about spice and more spice. And it's funny because in my last book, I've been retreating from that a little bit. In book 3 is my spiciest. That's the one with the love triangle between David and Kylo and Maddie. And I think I actually turned off some readers forever with that book. And yet now I'm finding there are readers who are like, books 1 and 2, book 3 was great. So I know why they're reading romance novels, and that's fine. I read romance novels because everything is beautiful and everything turns out and you don't have to deal with the real world. Because in this world, it's all great. But as far as sex goes, I think sex is about intimacy, so I think I include sex because of that, because it increases the intimacy of the characters. And I hope I don't get too far off the other end where, like the person said, there's almost no spice in this book. It's like, I disagree with that. I'm talking about Mr. Movie Star. I think there is quite a bit of spice, actually. It just doesn't go into detail. With my first book, I think I used the word cock 4 times. And Great Aunt Marianne, who's in her 90s, mentioned that to just about everyone 4 times. And I thought, 4 times, huh? I didn't know I used it that many times, but she was keeping track. So I thought, ugh. And then my sister said to me, my sister actually knows a lot more about classic romance novels than I do. My sister said, you know, you don't even have to use those words. You can just imply it. So I was like, okay. So I kind of made it a challenge to myself not to use the words. So I'm not getting all flowery with the, metaphors of whatever, and just trying to keep it about the buildup more than the culmination. So who knows? I'll keep experimenting. There's a number of authors right now that are hugely best-selling authors, I wouldn't mention names, who are just go so overboard with the sex now. It's almost like they're writing erotica. And as I get older, I want less of that and more about the feelings that lead up to it. So if you're more like that, I hope you'll enjoy the fact that I've backed off just a little bit from describing sex scenes in my novels. So as far as I'm concerned, they're still there. Like I say, I don't think you need to use all those words and have people go, oh my. Anyway, so it's always one last thing before I end this particularly long-winded section. I think that it's very difficult as a writer I do this because I love to write and I love to retreat into my world that I've invented. I don't do it, clearly, for money, although I hope someday I'll find enough of an audience to make it worth my while. And that's hard because you want to please people, like you want to please the readers you found already. So you find yourself doing things that you wouldn't necessarily do because you want to please your readers. So I don't think in this series, I'm actually about to end writing about the O'Connells for now. This current series, Beyond the Olympic Peninsula, is about secondary characters from the first 5 books who then go on and you see how they resolve all their conflicts, because they weren't good people in the first books. They were people with problems. So, but I loved them because I love all my characters, good and bad. And I've had plenty of bad boys in my life and they were a lot of fun until they weren't, but that's another story. And I just thought, wouldn't it be great if those people could get to a certain point in their lives when they could be more mature and fall in love themselves and have it be a lasting thing. So that's what this is all about. And I realize that won't work for some people because they've already decided those aren't people they like and they're not going to move on with them. So I suppose this series is probably more for me than it is for my readers. And I have 2 more books that haven't been published yet. Maybe by the time you see this, they have. One of them is about Rena Bakersfield, who was Joe's girlfriend in book 1. And the other one is about Kylo Mahalona, who was just about the baddest of my bad men. And in this book, it's 2023, and he's dealing with the crisis of aging, and he finds out that he has a daughter, and this triggers a crisis that has a large element, maybe the largest so far, of the supernatural in it. I do like to include those, and that's probably a no-no in romance. Another reason why I don't write to the genre. Anyway, it starts out as being a Christmas Carol, and then there's a little bit of Groundhog's Day when he experiences the same Christmas Day twice in different versions. And then it ends up as being more true to my other novels, where he ends up in Port Townsend and resolves his issues with his daughter and his daughter's mother. So I don't think I've given away too much. I don't mind spoilers. I like to know where a book is going. So, and I don't think that's really a spoiler, because you always know it's going to be a happy ending, right? I really loved writing that book about Rena, and I hope you'll love it too. It'll be coming out early in 2026, hopefully. It's written, but I have to record it. So, you know, I probably shouldn't be recording my own books. I think I'm a pretty good reader. No one is asking me, oh, could you read my book too? So maybe I'm not quite the reader I thought I was. However, I am the cheapest for me. I'm what I can afford. I pretty much know that if I paid someone $100 an hour, they're not going to be better than me. And I really don't want to pay someone $250 an hour. So I'm stuck with me. And if you do like my audiobooks, please leave a review. If you don't like it, maybe don't. I don't know. I have one real stinker review from someone for book one. And it's funny because I'm sure people don't really consider whether the author reads their reviews. And I do. I read all my reviews eventually. I try to wait till there's a number of them so I can kind of like not be faced with a bunch of all bad reviews. But that one book, that one review was one of the first reviews I got for my first audiobook. And I was like, oh my God, this person just hates my book. And do I know this person? Because it felt very personal. I thought, maybe it's not the best reading of all time, but is it that bad? So anyway, it went on to get a lot of decent reviews, quite good reviews. And in the end, I have a solid 4 stars for the audiobook of the first book, but they will always be 4 stars or under because of that first review. And I looked to see what other things that guy had reviewed, and he didn't like a lot of things. But anyway, he's entitled to his opinion, and you know, we all feel that way about reviews. It's like, for the most part, I would never hold it against anyone if you don't like my books. Not everyone is going to like my books. I just hope that a majority does. So, and I've written for a specific audience of people who don't like to be made too anxious when they read, who love a good romance between people who are good people and mean the best, even if they don't always do the best, and then find their happy endings, usually in Port Townsend. But we'll talk about the setting another time, because it is a little odd how everything comes back to Port Townsend in my books. And it's not even the real Port Townsend, because face it, I got the geography really wrong. So anyway, I'm happy to see you here, and I hope you enjoy my books. I'll keep writing as long as I'm alive. And greetings to you. I'm in Anacortes, which was our compromise with my husband. I wanted to live in Port Townsend, and he wanted to live in Anacortes. And the truth is, they're pretty similar. They're both Victorian seaside villages. And we live in a house that is not a Victorian, which is good, because who wants to be fixing things all the time? But it kind of has an old-timey feel to it. And now I'm getting on to other subjects. So I will see you in other videos, maybe. I don't feel too comfortable filming when my husband's around, but he's off kayaking. So I'll say goodbye for now. Bye.